Hi, welcome to Max and Nicky 1000th Time Reactions.
On this episode, we're going to be listening to I Say a Little Prayer by Aretha Franklin.
Or the Aretha Franklin version of this song.
That's right.
Of course, as we all know, it was written by Burt Bacharach and Hal
David.
David.
And originally performed by Dionne Warwick.
Actually, originally featured in the musical Promises.
No. I
Yes.
thought it was added to Promises after it became a hit.
Are you sure about that?
I'm not.
I don't think you're right about that.
I think I am, though, actually. But maybe I'm wrong.
You know what? We're going to look at that after we listen to the song just to make sure.
Sure.
But if you guys know the answer, write it in the comments. But we
we're
will
gonna
look
talk
at
about
it.
it
We'll
after
look it up
anyway.
afterwards. But
Okay, but for right now, before we move on, we'd just like to remind you guys that we also have another YouTube channel just called Max and Nicky, where we perform jazz standards,
oldies, tunes, and originals in that vein.
In that vein. And we have comedy videos on there as well.
So please go check that out. But in the meantime,
Let's take a listen to I Say a Little Prayer by Aretha Franklin.
Moment I wake up, before I put on my makeup, I say a little prayer for you. And while combing my hair now, and wondering what dress to wear now, I say a little prayer for you. Forever, forever, you stay in my heart, and I will love you forever, ever. The bus stand, but while riding I think of us days. I say a little prayer for you. And at work I just take time, and all through my coffee break time, I say a little prayer for you. Forever, ever, ever, stay in my heart, and I will love you forever, ever, ever. My darling, believe me, for me there is no one but you. Please love me true. I'm in love with you. Answer my prayer. Answer my prayer, babe. Answer my prayer. Say you love me true. Answer my prayer. Answer my prayer, babe. Answer my prayer. For me, there is no one but you. Please love me true. This is my prayer. Answer my prayer now, baby. This is my prayer. Answer it right now, baby. Say you love me true. Answer my prayer. This is my prayer, babe. I'm in love with you.
All right, I Say a Little Prayer for You by
this
Aretha
version by
Franklin
Aretha
version.
Franklin. Obviously, I think it was originally written for Dionne Warwick. That's what Max says. Although I think it first appeared in the Promises, Promises musical. Obviously, we do know that it does appear in that musical, but the question remains, did it appear in that musical first, or was it originally written as a single for Dionne Warwick and then added to the Promises, Promises musical afterward? Of course, Promises, Promises was written by Burt Bacharach and Hal David.
Yeah, musical written by those two, with some other songs in it, including Promises, Promises, that are good.
Let's just start this off real quick.
Wait, well, why don't we just check? Why don't we start off by just checking that real quick?
Oh, let's check that out real quick. Well, I stand corrected.
See,
in fact, it was actually
just reused.
It
in
was
the
never
revival.
actually. It was not used in the original '60s
Right.
Staging of Promises, Promises. It was used in the revival,
the 2010
that
one.
that starred Sean Hayes and
Sean
Kristen
Hayes.
Chenoweth, rather.
Kristen Chenoweth. That's right.
But let's get into picking apart the song. First of all, Burt Bacharach. He
a
might be
big
the biggest
influence.
influence on my own music.
Well, he's a big
Or
influence.
he's one of the top 5 biggest
What he did
influences.
was he brought into the pop world a bit of a jazz sensibility and a kind of maybe a little bit more of a complex. He like sneaks in like complex ideas into a simple kind of pop world.
I mean,
actually.
a big example is the time
The
signature
time
change
signature
in this
and
song.
the chorus of this song, it goes from 4. It does a measure of 4/4. If you know some things about music theory, it goes from 4/4 to 7/4. I mean, that's an unusual thing for a pop song.
Sure, 7/4. I mean, obviously, even though the Beatles didn't know exactly what they were doing at the time, they would often have, time signature changes.
Time signature.
you know,
I mean, they knew what they were doing.
like We Can Work It Out is a known example of that.
Well, but not only that. I mean, if you listen to "Happiness Is a Warm Gun," I mean that has some.
But
some things
we
in it.
actually had the opportunity of seeing Burt Bacharach live
right.
a few years back in San Francisco when we were living out there, and it was really cool. He was obviously getting older, and he
didn't really sing most of the tunes because.
but he did sing a couple tunes.
I mean, his voice was quite raspy.
I think he did. He sang a bit of Wives and Lovers, right? And that rendition is really cool. He had this whole orchestra backing him, the SF Symphony Orchestra. And
anyway, he also had these other singers that would sing most of the songs as he played piano. But on this Aretha Franklin version, so what happened was they were recording an album of Aretha Franklin's with her backup singers, and during takes for the songs that were going to be intended for the album, they were kind of having fun, just the Aretha Franklin and the singers, doing a version of a Say a Little Prayer that was not intended for the album. They were just having fun.
Really?
And the producer, or one of the producers, was like, "Oh my God, we need to record this song, actually."
And I got to be honest with you guys.
It was a kind of different version. And the pianist, I guess, added, that's kind of an iconic piano in this song, too. It's really good. And
I got to be honest, guys.
I
prefer this version
more than
over the Dionne Warwick
Warwick
version.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I like Dionne Warwick. She's got some great hits with I'll Never Fall in Love Again. Of course, that did appear in
Do you
Promises,
know the way
Promises.
to San Jose?
Do you know the way to San Jose? That's what friends are for, and and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I mean, she had a string of hits with Burt Bacharach there and Hal David. They were known for their collaboration.
But I gotta say, I mean, this one just has a bit more soul, and also with those backup singers that are kind of, there's this sort of call and response thing going on.
Very good.
And it's great. It's really good.
I think
I can just imagine they were just bopping along, having fun to this, and they were like, "We need to capture the fun they're having, on a record."
In the Dionne Warwick version, you'll probably hear more of those classic Burt Bacharach horn arrangements in there, where this one is a little bit.
This is a little more, it's simplified. I think, it's got piano, some drums, some light drum action. Got a guitar, an acoustic guitar, and that acoustic guitar, and also the bass line. I gotta say, the bass line, I know it can't be heard super well. If you're using some nice headphones, you can hear it. I mean, classic 60s recordings, the bass was definitely not heightened as much. But It's some really good bass action work going on there. It's
Probably
good.
one of those, Wrecking Crew members, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, I'm sure this is a Wrecking Crew.
Backing band. Right?
I think so, actually. I think. Yeah.
Although I'm not sure because I think it was, I'm pretty sure her stuff was recorded else. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, but I believe that Jerry Wexler was the producer for this. Am I not mistaken?
That's right, Nicky. Jerry Wexler. There we go.
Yeah, there
Very
you
good,
go.
Nicky.
Yeah.
Atlantic label.
Jerry Wexler was a big.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a great, great song. If you like other Burt Bacharach tunes, I mean, if you're watching us react to this, I'm sure you know who Burt Bacharach is. But if you don't, go check out other songs that he's written, such as the theme song to Alfie,
Wait,
which is really good.
am I wrong? I think Atlantic at the time was associated with Stax. And so if that were the case, they would have had other musicians, actually, in-house musicians.
Right. I think.
But I'm not. I think maybe Aretha Franklin. I'm not sure if she was associated with Stax. Anyway, write in the comments section if you know the answers to these.
Right.
things.
I think it might have been recorded somewhere in the South or something like that, perhaps.
I think so.
You know?
But maybe I'm wrong.
But, if you like Burt Bacharach and Hal David, check out the theme song to Alfie, which is very good. Actually, Cher does the original version in the movie, which is very good, but I actually really like the Nancy Wilson version. Nancy Wilson, of course, being one of my favorite singers
maybe
of all time.
one of the best, if not, arguably the best singer of all time, Nancy Wilson.
She had great vocal control, very good. But also, check out the whole soundtrack to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which featured, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head by
And-
B.J. Thomas and
and
South American Getaway. That's
South
very
American
good.
Getaway, yes.
And then, of
Okay,
course,
the name escaped me for a second.
And here's this actually, the song "This Guy's in Love with You" or "This Guy's in Love with You." You know that song, of course, was a hit for Herb Alpert. Well, actually, that hit number one, and I believe Herb Alpert is the only musician ever to hit number one on the Billboard Hot 100 charts with a vocal tune and an instrumental tune. Of course, the song "Rise" from the '70s was a top 100 hit.
Well, he also
or
had,
number one hit.
he had a lot of hits, instrumental hits, Herb Alpert.
Sure.
But, he was, one of the founders of A&M Records.
Sure, that's he's the
Herb Alpert
He's
and
the
Jerry,
A
and Jerry Moss was the other one. A lot of Jerrys we're talking
Anyway,
about
we're
today.
definitely going off on a tangent.
Anyway,
just
great
this
tune.
song
I say a
is
little
so
prayer.
good.
It's so good. It's so memorable. It just
No,
puts you in a real good mood.
I must
It's
admit-
got that 60s warmth to it.
It's got that 60s warmth to
you
it.
know?
We've heard this song thousands and thousands of times. Of course, growing up listening to oldie stations, how could you avoid hearing this song?
Well, it's also, it's in my best friend's wedding.
Well, I must admit, the version they do in my best friend's wedding, it's a bit of a guilty pleasure, even though it's quite cheesy the way they do it. But
Well, yeah, okay.
it's a bit of a guilty pleasure, though.
Well, I don't like to, I don't like to bash any.
Sure, no, it's
Artistic
fun. It's a fun
intentions,
version. It's a fun, sing along to the
It's
song.
a fun moment in the movie.
Sure. But this is a great song. We love it. I think that's going to do it for this reaction. Remember to hit that subscribe button and ding that post notification bell to find out about more Max and Nicky reactions.
And keep tuning in.